16 teams are still standing in the NCAA tournament. That's why we call it the Sweet 16. And of course, those 16 teams are going to meet up in 8 different games on Thursday and Friday of this week. Only one of those 8 games features a conference matchup, and that would be, of course, Iowa and Nebraska, 2 teams from the Big Ten that have done very well this tournament. Neither of those squads played particularly well down the stretch. They both had good stretches in early season play. Nebraska had a great stretch early season play. They won 20 straight games. But Iowa did too. Neither squad played their best basketball down the stretch of what was a brutal Big Ten campaign. And we've seen how good the Big Ten actually was by looking at how many Big Ten teams are still standing here. But the bottom line for this one is rematch in Houston. Let's talk about it right now. Look at the Odds Logic live odds screen. Nebraska minus 1.5. There are some minus 2s out there for the Huskers. Total sitting in the 132 range. There are some 131.5s as well. A little bit of early money for Iowa, and I mean a little bit, and a little bit of early money for the under. And certainly, from a side standpoint, my clients and I have cashed with Nebraska twice in this tournament. One was a right side winner. One got there, and we'll take it. Although, even if the kid would have hit that 3-pointer at the buzzer, Nebraska still would have covered the number as underdogs in that ballgame. But it wasn't like Nebraska was as dominant over the weekend as they were in that initial Thursday game against Troy. Nonetheless, I came into the tournament thinking that the Huskers were something of an undervalued commodity, and that really hasn't changed. That being said, we've got plenty of series history between these two teams this season. And what does the series history tell us? It tells us that there's not a whole lot of separation between Iowa and Nebraska. First meeting in February, 57-52. That was in Iowa City, and it was a game where the Huskers shot 41% from the floor, 21% from three-point range, only had 2 offensive rebounds. It really wasn't a pretty showing for Nebraska, but they played enough defense to keep themselves in the game, just not enough defense to actually win it. Iowa won and covered despite shooting just 33% from the floor. They did hit 17 of 18 free throws in that contest and were dominant on the glass as well. The rematch played just, 2 weeks ago. Was a little bit of a different story, though obviously it was another tight game and it came under very different circumstances with Nebraska back at home. This time the Hawkeyes shot 48% from the floor and they hit 11 3-pointers. Nebraska also shot much better the second time around, 50% with 10 3-pointers made. What happened with the better shooting? Obviously, the game flew over the total, but it was every bit as close as the first meeting. In fact, this one went to OT before Nebraska emerged victorious. So, first meeting down to the wire, second meeting down to the wire. Point spread here says, you know what you got to expect? Down to the wire. So, from a side standpoint, if I play the game, I'm going to stick with Nebraska. Nebraska's you dance with the one that brung you. I came into the tournament thinking that Nebraska was something of an undervalued commodity, and they have been. Now, once you get to the Sweet 16, it's really not about what's the undervalued commodity. It's about who's going to play well and who's going to match up well with the other team. And these two teams, we've seen obviously them play twice. And the second meeting, certainly from an offensive standpoint, they kind of figured out what the opposing defense was trying to do. And I know the game went into overtime, but it's still, the overtime had finished with 19 points. So in regulation of that second meeting, we were looking at, 70 all going into OT. So that was 140 points in regulation. Again, this total right now sitting 132. And so much of this, from a total standpoint, I want to talk total first because I'm not going to give you guys a side recommendation. Like I said, if I'm going to play the game, it'll be Nebraska. It'll be Nebraska on the money line. But it's not because of the matchup. It's because I came into the tournament thinking Nebraska was the undervalued commodity. I've already cashed 2 tickets with them, and I feel like I should ride them one more time. That's the truth of it with the Huskers. And I'm a Hoiberg believer in that sense. And, both of these teams coming up buzzer beaters. But the play here is most assuredly on the total. If you're going to make a recommendation for this ballgame, we're talking about total. And from a total standpoint, huge difference between first half and full game. And this is why. When you have a game in this point spread range, 4 minutes to go, If it's a one-possession game, boy, you see it slow down. You can go through the first 3.5 of those minutes and then have a bucket or two. It's 30-second possessions, playing defense the whole way. You don't see the whistles. You don't see the fouls. And you see a lot of misses. If it's a 2-possession or a 3-possession game in those closing minutes, what happens? The team that's trailing plays fast. They're going to jack up shots. They hit a shot, they foul. Hit a shot, and they foul. And you can get what I call scramble points. So in a tight game that's a 1-possession game, you can get 2, 3, 5 points, over a 3-minute span between the 4-minute and the 1-minute mark, And if it's a game where there's a multi-possession lead, you can get the exact opposite of that. Just bucket after bucket and 3-pointer, and you can get 20 points in the last minute sometimes when that happens. So from a total standpoint here, we're going to concentrate on the first half of this ball game. And what are we seeing in the two meetings? First half, low scoring. Now, I know that everybody figured everything out last time out in terms of the shooting percentages. And certainly in the second half of that ball game, we saw 84 points compared to 56 before the break. But in a game of this magnitude, in a game played on a neutral floor without Big Ten refs, you know what? First half is the way I'm going to look. 61/61.5, the prevailing total. And again, second half might be different. But first half, under. And then we'll see what happens in terms of scramble points at the end. But again, two teams that know what the opponent wants to do. Two teams that have seen each other twice already this season. And two teams that aren't going to play with a ton of pace. Yeah, shootout last time, 140 points regulation last time. And we could get insanity in the second half here. But first half, we're going to stay under the total. Again, 61, the prevailing number as we speak, 61.5. We would expect, again, maybe fireworks later. Early on, it'll be a feeling out process. First half under is the way to go for Iowa and Nebraska. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to watch my free play video, whatever you want to call it. We appreciate the comments, the likes, and the follows very, very much. 64% in the NCAA tournament over the last 3 tournaments, so it's not a short-term thing. And you can check out my homepage, wt.buzz/TC, or just visit the website, wagertalk.com. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned right here on this channel for more quality video content. I look forward to reading your comments below. Cheers.